All right. Hey, everybody. We're here at Game Time with Doc and Lurch. We're here every Tuesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Logging in just a little early to get a sound check going. Lurch is grabbing a drink and then he'll be right back. But I'm checking sound here to make sure we can be heard okay. We'll check Lurch's sound when he gets back. But check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Okay, sounds like we're pretty good. Just to go over real quick, well, before we get started, me and Lurch come together because we're part of Eclectic Endeavors, the group that puts on the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo and the Picnic at the End of the Universe and other related activities like Game Night at Holdfast Brewing Company. And although the show itself is not directly affiliated to that, that's what brought us together. And we do shows every Tuesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. where we discuss anything and everything going on in the nerdosphere, especially as regards to like Marvel and DC TV shows, which is one of our main feature topics. Let's get a real quick sound check on Lurch real quick, make sure he comes through. Lurch.
Hey yo, how is it sounding? Hey yo, how is it sounding?
Okay, you sound pretty good to me. Okay.
Right.
I was just telling everybody kind of who we are and what we're about. I should grab out a chat window too while I'm at it. So let me open the chat window so we can see the pop out and see if anybody comes in to share the conversation with us. We always enjoy people joining the conversation, although we do realize that a lot of our main audience are people that will wait and watch it in reruns off of YouTube, which I do tend to drop the show onto YouTube within 7 days of having run the show. So you can generally find it there under the Gamer Seuss channel. Just type in Gamer Seuss, all one word, GamerSeuss, and go to the Game Time playlist, and that's where you'll find old episodes. I don't recall if I put last week's episode up yet, so I'll probably put it up today if it's not already there. And I may or may not have sorted the last couple episodes into the playlist as of yet, but they will be there. I've also been streaming some more of Fractured online beta testing, so I've been putting some of that out there. So if you want to see the new Fractured MMO in its beta test form, you can watch me kill ice elementals or Jotun storm giants, which is a lot of fun. Big old storm giants attacking us. Me and my sister going out and killing them. That's always a lot of fun as well. I got my new Totem of Wildfire spell, which acts like a little mini turret that I can throw out to attack the bad guys. It's lots of fun. Anyway, we're going to get started now. We've got a mostly media-focused show for you this week because, I mean, let's face it, there's just a lot going on in media right now, so we're not going to handle a bunch of video game news or anything, although I will say, and I just told Lurch about this, we did just find out that Stargirl Season 3 finally has a premiere date, which is August 31st, so we're real excited about that. Can't wait. And that'll lead into our first real subject. Me and Lurch, we wanted to talk about the CW network and more importantly, the purchase by one of the biggest, or the biggest owner of television networks in the United States, Nexstar Media Group, which has purchased 75%, or is in the process of. They haven't actually completed the purchase yet as of this writing, but they're in the process of acquiring 75% of the CW from Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount, which are the current owners, which would basically make it 75% Nexstar and then 12.5% Paramount and 12.5% Warner Brothers Discovery Network. And no cash is supposed to be changing hands in this particular transaction. Instead, what Nexstar is doing is acquiring the approximately $100 million debt that has been accumulated by the CW network as their side of the compensation for the deal. It says, according to the Wall Street Journal, should the deal move to completion, Nexstar will have 75% control of the CW with the remaining 25% stake of the network split evenly between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery at 12.5% each. Nexstar is the biggest owner of local television stations in the U.S., and the deal for the CW stake will not be one where cash changes hands in the normal sense. The deal will see Nexstar cover the network's debts, which have risen to $100 million. So that's restating what I basically said.
Yeah.
Conversations about the sale of the network began to surface early in the year as Warner Media was involved in a change in ownership with Discovery set to acquire the company. And of course, we were all pretty excited by that kind of merger. At the time, it was reported that multiple bids were being explored and nothing was yet imminent. It would seem, however, that this has changed. At the time when rumors began to circulate of the potential sale, the CW chairman and CEO Mark Pedowitz released an internal memo to the staff that sought to address the issue. It basically said, first, as many of you are aware, over the past year or so, this transformative time in our industry has led to a series of business activities across media and content companies. Given that environment right now, Viacom, CBS, and Warner Brothers are exploring strategic opportunities to optimize the value of their joint venture in the CW network. It's too early to speculate what might happen, but we promise to keep you updated as we learn more. And that was the internal memo that happened prior to the new sale.
Yeah.
Upon closure of the deal, Paramount and Warner Brothers will continue to produce content for the CW, and Nexstar will also look to other studios in hopes of purchasing other content. When Pedowitz took over the reins of the broadcast network, he looked to broaden its appeal and audience. According to this new report, Nexstar had plans of their own to equally broaden that scope to cover older audiences, as the CW currently focuses on young adults. Nexstar will look to put out programming that would match the demographics of its affiliates. And of course, since Nexstar owns like most of the stations in the country, that means a lot of demographics overall. So we're still going to see the stuff that appeal to us younger people. Hopefully, things like the Walker spinoff that's coming out, and the new Kung Fu that's still going strong. Superman and Lois is, of course, renewed. Stargirl starts, like we said, in August. Flash has at least one more season on renewal. But other than that, we're going to probably start to see some stuff that's geared towards older audiences. Some people like in my age bracket a little bit, although I watch the younger stuff more than some people my age do. So it's going to be interesting to follow.
Is Kung Fu renewed for a new series or new season?
They even have they do have a release date in October for the next season.
Okay.
So because I saw it when I was looking at the Stargirl stuff, like the first or second week in October, Kung Fu comes back for a new season, and so does the Walker series and the Walker spin-off series, and I think the Supernatural one too. I don't remember if that's on there. I think the Winchesters is on there as well. While Tom Swift, the new series, has already been canceled. It only got the one season and then it got canceled, kind of like how Naomi was treated. Naomi got one season and got canceled. But then again, I haven't tried to watch Tom Swift yet, but Naomi was just having a real hard time holding audiences, I think, because of how they was presenting it. And you know, you put it forth as a comic book based series, but then they didn't run the show like a proper comic book show. It didn't have the action that we really comic book fans would crave. That's the thing I think was their biggest trouble. They didn't put in that comic book feel to it. There was not nearly the action scenes that we were expecting. I mean, it was till the last few episodes before we really even started to understand what her power set was.
So it's hard to know what this acquisition is going to mean for the future of the shows that we watch. I mean, I know that The Flash got renewed for a 9th season, which is reportedly going to be the final season.
Might be. The reports I saw showed that Grant Gustin was actually offered a multi-year deal, but wanted just to do it year by year just to be sure. So it very well could have been renewed for 2 or even 3 years, but Grant Gustin said no. He wanted to do 1 year and then see how he feels after that. Also, of course, there's all the rumors going around that they're trying to recruit Grant Gustin to be Ezra Miller's replacement, which could have a big effect on whether he continued as Flash on the TV series. Yeah. Although I don't see it happening. I think they're going to keep the two kind of divorced, but there's been some great recommendations for who could take over Ezra Miller's spot. One of them is the kid from Maze Runner. I think he's actually a really good choice. Or maybe even Mike from Stranger Things. I like him as a choice. He's pretty good, and he's of course
Wolfhard.
Finn, and he's a pretty hot ticket now. I mean, he's been on Ghostbusters and Stranger Things, which both did really, really well. He's almost as popular as Millie Bobby Brown is right now from that show. And if he doesn't do a real bad thing like Harbor did with his rendition of Hellboy, he could do quite a lot. And luckily for Harbor, he was still on Stranger Things when he did Hellboy, so Hellboy didn't really screw up his career.
Was it David Harbour that did the Hellboy movie?
Yeah, the reboot of Hellboy was Dave Harbour in Ron Perlman's role as Hellboy. And it flopped totally. In fact, I was just reading an article about it. But, and after it happened, he called, of all people, he called Ryan Reynolds to talk to him about it because he wanted to know how Ryan Reynolds handled the flop of Green Lantern. And he was like, but I guess Ryan Reynolds reassured him that it's not always going to be that, because Ryan Reynolds bounced back with Deadpool in a big way. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds is still one of the hottest tickets out there, even though he did the Green Lantern, and he's not blamed for Green Lantern. It's the production and everything that's blamed for Green Lantern. Reynolds was fine.
There are a whole lot of elements that have to come together just right to make a good movie or show. You gotta have the right story,
chemistry,
the right script. You gotta have the right actors that fit that script. You gotta have the right directors, that match with the actors well, and the story that you're telling. There's just so many components. There's a lot of reasons why something.
And with a property like Green Lantern, you're doubly in trouble because it's got a huge backlog of supporters already that are aching to find fault with it. As much as they want to see a great adaptation, they are chomping at the bit with nerd rage, ready to find any fault they can too. So that gives you another thing to worry about with comic book adaptations, especially on a property like Green Lantern. Green Lantern is just, so massively important to the comic book culture.
Yeah.
It's like, Hellboy is great, but Hellboy is more of a Dark Horse comic, which isn't as big for most, it's not from the big two. It's so it's not as widely known as like some like Batman or Wolverine. So Hellboy can get away with some things that other comics can't. But you also want to take a different track with a movie like Hellboy. And I thought Ron Perlman did an excellent job, and said he's just a hard act to follow when you want to try to reboot it. I mean, and
Yeah.
I watched the Harbor one, and I don't think Harbor himself did a bad job. I just don't think that the writing was up to par and the production value. But the makeup job they did on Harbor was really good, and he looked good as Hellboy. And I think Harbor's acting was just fine. It's just um, the rest of the movie, I think, was what tanked the movie. Just kind of like how the CGI of Green Lantern was a big part of the tanking of the Green Lantern movie. You don't want to make the costume CG. It just didn't work. That was one of the main complaints I always heard about the Green Lantern, and I have to agree. CG in the costume was not the right way to go. At least not that version of it. At least not that version.
I'm looking at David Harbour's IMDb, and he's been in quite a few things. War of the Worlds, 2005, Brokeback Mountain.
Right, but his big breakout role was, of course, as Hopper in Stranger Things.
Yeah. He played as Dracula in a movie called Awake in 2007. He was let's see here. I mean, those are TV show appearances, so those are some pretty small.
Well, he was, of course, in the Black Widow movie, and he did really good there. Yeah. And that was a good one for him.
He's in The Equalizer.
Yeah, he's been in a few different movies. It's just
he was in the 2016 Suicide Squad. The first Suicide Squad movie.
I'm trying to remember what role he played in that, because I don't remember.
I don't remember him, but his character was named Dexter Tolliver.
I don't remember that character even. I'm gonna have to rewatch that Suicide Squad just to be to do a Where's Waldo for David Harbour. But all in all, I think he's a good actor. And of course, another thing that the Duffer Brothers have confirmed that there is going to be a spin-off show from Stranger Things, but it's going to be 1,000% different from Stranger Things. So don't expect like them following another number, for instance, or like a Hopper the early years, which is one David Harbour wanted to possibly pitch and stuff. So we don't know what's going to happen with the new Stranger Things once Stranger Things season 5 wraps, because that's the close of the current Stranger Things. They're not planning a season 6, but the Duffer Brothers have said that although they want to do the spinoff, they don't actually want to be the creative team behind it. They want to find somebody with a good vision and turn it over to them from the very beginning. They don't even, the best case scenario is they don't even want to write the pilot. They just want to advise and supervise. But they want a different creative person to go in. And I think that could be a good call by them. That way they can work on other projects but still have some creative control. Because they're fantastic. I mean, let's not pull any punches here. They're an awesome duo. The Duffer Brothers they made a show that's just so compelling and even funny. And we will be talking about the finale of Stranger Things today too. That'll be one of our things in the media.
Yeah.
Now we kind of were doing the CW network thing, and we really don't have anything actually on the books planned other than this and this general talking like we're doing right now. But was there anything else in the video game world you even wanted to do a shout out about this week? I mean, I know you don't have any full on topics set up, but was there anything like really late breaking that you wanted to mention?
No, not really. I mean, it's nothing that was like huge. Like we just got past these big like showcases, the June showcases.
So it's a little bit of a slowdown.
And so, since we had a ton of huge announcements over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, and now the announcements are kind of slowing down. More of the information that's coming out more recently feels like it's like things that are not happening. Like Sucker Punch said that they have no plans to work on any Infamous games or Sly Cooper games anytime soon, because people have been asking for it, and they've made a public statement saying that they're not working on it.
That makes sense. I will say, go ahead.
I was gonna say there was I think we talked about the Tony Hawk thing already.
Yes, you did.
There was I think we talked about that last week. But since then, and I can't think of who it was, there was another team, a development team that makes games that EA just purchased to have them, or not EA, not EA, Activision Blizzard just purchased to have them work on the like Diablo games or something like that. And so,
and then they've got,
remember who that was.
And then they've got Diablo Oblivion out there right now, which, from what I hear in the gaming community that are huge Diablo fans, it's not going well because there's a major pay-to-win wall in the game.
Diablo Immortal. And
it's Immortal. Oh, it's Immortal, not Oblivion, right?
Yeah,
and it's got a huge pay-to-win wall in it.
Yeah, and there's been streamers who have the money who are like going on and they'll spend $10,000 on it to try to get some good stuff and still won't even get like really good gear.
Yeah, I think I saw one streamer say to get the winning gear for that, it's going to cost you something like $45,000 or something in pay to really pull it off. There's like a guide, and that's just way too much. So the pay-to-win wall on that has really got massive disappointment written into the stars for the gamers. And Diablo is such a great franchise, and we're all waiting for Diablo 4 to come out. But Diablo Immortal is a major disappointment. In fact, one writer that I read said that it's not even really a Diablo game. It's a Diablo skin over a Japanese pseudo-mobile game.
Really?
So it's not even really worth the name Diablo, and that's pretty bad because Diablo is like the premier title that really made Blizzard what they are. Even more than World of Warcraft, Diablo was the thing that put them on the video game map with Diablo 1, which was the thing about Diablo is every year that a new Diablo comes out, it always wins Game of the Year. Diablo 1 did, Diablo 2 did, Diablo 3 did. So Diablo Immortal getting this kind of reaction is really going to hurt.
Yep. I just looked it up, and now I remember the story. The developer team called Proletariat. They developed a game called Spellbreak, and Blizzard Entertainment just bought that team so to have them help work on World of Warcraft.
On World of Warcraft, okay.
Yeah, which I'm a little disappointed. I liked Spellbreak. I haven't played it in several months, but I had a good time playing it.
They could possibly greenlight a Spellbreak 2 or Spellbreak enhancements after they're done working on World of Warcraft. Or
I don't see that happening until after Xbox owns it.
Yeah,
because after that acquisition completes next year.
Right. In other news, let's see. Jon Favreau, who was, of course, the creative mind behind the Daredevil movie. I mean, not Daredevil, Deadpool movies. No, not Favreau's not Deadpool. Favreau is Iron Man. Iron Man. And, of course, he played Happy.
He's also one of the core people behind a lot of the Star Wars live-action shows, along with Dave Filoni.
Yeah. Well, he also went on, and you can find a YouTube video of him where he went on Howard Stern and explained how to play Dungeons and Dragons, which is kind of a fun little video you might want to look up in basic D&D news. D&D is gearing up towards their version 5.5, which is supposed to be coming out possibly in 2024. Which would coincide with the 50th anniversary of the game. But, that news is kind of up and down. Other than that, we don't have a whole lot going on. Of course, Love and Thunder comes out this week. I understand you went and saw Lightyear.
I saw Lightyear yesterday, and I saw Top Gun Maverick on Saturday.
Nice. I'm trying to see if I can get a day that works with... Ralphie to take him to go see Love and Thunder, since of course my normal movie going buddy is the one that died, and so I don't have a movie going buddy anymore. You go to the IMAX and I go to the Alamo, so that wouldn't work. as much as I'd love to go see it with you, we
Yeah.
go to different theaters, and with my handicap and everything, I like the Alamo better.
Every once in a while, a friend will try to talk me into doing movies at the other theaters, and I'm like, but it'll be someone who watches the movie at the theaters like once every 4 months. And including Thor: Love and Thunder this Thursday, I'll have watched 3 movies in a week's span at the theaters. I go to the movies a lot, and so I have that. That membership. I pay $20 a month for basically unlimited movies. It's up to 3 movies a week, which is as limited as I can do with my schedule.
Yeah. So you have the movie pass, so I understand why you go to the IMAX, and so it wouldn't make sense for you to go to the Alamo, except for maybe as a special thing. Like I know this week, one of the costuming guilds is doing a group movie watch of Love and Thunder, and something like that maybe could drag you in, but see, so I'm hoping that Ralphie will go with me to see Love and Thunder, and then I might occasionally go with Ralphie as my new movie-going buddy, because I don't, with my handicap, I don't feel comfortable going by myself, and Allison's just not comfortable in those seats most of the time, so it's really one of those where if I don't have somebody to go with, I have to wait till it comes to stream, which really kind of sucks for me.
I had to squeeze in Lightyear because Thursday is the last day Lightyear is going to be at the theater here, and I'm watching Thor: Love and Thunder that day, and I had the podcast tonight, and I'm going to be on call tomorrow night, so I wouldn't be able to watch it. Go to the movies tomorrow night. Speaking of movie stuff, just really quick, James Cameron has recently said in an interview, he's been a little bit of a dick, I think. James Cameron says he doesn't want to hear anyone whining about the length of Avatar 2. I don't know if you know, but the Avatar 2 is coming out soon. I think this fall. This is the exact quote from James Cameron via Empire. He said, "I don't want anybody whining about length when they sit and binge watch TV for 8 hours. I can almost write this part of the review. The agonizingly long 3-hour movie. It's like, give me a fucking break. I've watched my kids sit and do 5 1-hour episodes in a row. Here's the big social paradigm shift that has to happen. It's okay to get up and go pee."
Well, back when movies first started to show in theaters, they generally had an intermission just to do that.
Yeah.
And they might bring that back for some of these longer movies if they start doing the 3 and 4 hour movies. Like if something like Snyder's Justice League was to come to theaters, they'd almost have to.
Yeah, that's 6 hours. It probably needs 2 bathroom breaks. I do think we need to kind of normalize for really long films some kind of an intermission,
Yeah, 20 minutes to go to the bathroom and refresh your snacks. Just because. Maybe go stretch. Those who smoke cigarettes to go out and get a quick puff, I guess. I'm not a smoker, so to me that's not a big deal, but I understand for the smokers it is.
Yeah.
So if they could go out and get a quick puff and we can go and refresh our popcorn, unless you go to some place where they serve it like the Alamo.
I can't help but have this thought go through my head where if you're saying it's okay for people to get up and go pee, you're saying it's okay for people to miss a part of your movie because it doesn't have enough happening to be interesting enough to not go pee.
Yeah, who wants to miss 15 minutes of action to go fight the lions at the bathroom?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to do that? That's why you put in an intermission. And I think if we're going to start having a paradigm shift and do the longer movies, which it is looking like we're doing, they're going to either need to break the movies up into 2 parts like they did with Dune, or they're going to have to put in a 10 to 15 minute intermission where you can run to the bathroom, stamp your hand, and you come back and have them check for a stamp when you go back into the auditorium. Because that's just going to be how it is, which it worked in the 50s and 60s when people went to the movie theater.
Yeah.
So
I like to go to live production plays, and those often will have the larger ones will have an intermission.
Yeah, the cast needs a break if nothing else. So they take an intermission. Usually they do costume changing and stuff during that time. They might go out and sign a couple autographs or something in that time. You know, there's all kinds of things that can happen in those intermissions. But it's a good thing to get them hydrated and all kinds of stuff. And you as the viewer need to make sure you stay hydrated and go to the bathroom and all the other things that you need to do. You know, even if you just want to stretch your legs for a minute so your legs don't fall asleep in those chairs. I mean, you're not professional movie critics that are built to sit through 12 hours of movies every day. Not that we wouldn't do it. We would do it if we could. But yeah, we would still run to the bathroom every couple hours. I mean, come on. And longer movies are just happening. I mean, I was not a fan of Dune. So I'm not saying that Dune's a great movie to me because I don't like Frank Herbert. But the guy who wrote the new Dune movie basically has been made no qualms about saying that this next movie is really just part 2 of the first movie. It's not a sequel. It's not a prequel. It's not a anything like that. It's part 2 of a one long movie that he basically imagined, but it was so big that he cut it in half. And that's what a lot of movies are doing now. They're either cutting them in half or they're getting progressively longer, but they're sending them out to like streaming services, like, you know, the Snyder Cut. Snyder Cut would not have made it in theaters at that length, but we all was around the home TV where we could hit pause, run to the bathroom, and come back. Speaking of which, they did also recently finally release the Snyder Cut to digital download. It is going to be coming to digital download here in the next week or two. So you can finally get digital copies of the Snyder Cut. Because even if you bought the DVD, there was no digital copy included in that originally. So that means that there's a slight ray of hope that they might change up and make the Snyder Cut canon again, which would be amazing in my opinion. I think a lot of us fans out there would go down on our knees in thanks if the Snyder Cut became canon, because let's face it, the Snyder Cut was a much better Justice League by far.
Yeah.
Although it was, like you said, almost 6 hours long. But it took it to tell that story.
Oh, it was,
It was worth every minute.
Yeah, I loved it. So, we should probably move on to talking about the new episodes of things, the new shows.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today. This is like our media extravaganza show because there's so much media this week. And we're going to start off with the finales from the CW. And we'll start with Superman and Lois. From this point on, spoiler alert is in full effect. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, wait, go watch the episodes. You can watch them for free on the CW.TV. And then you can come back and watch this on our replay on YouTube under Gamer Stews. But we are going to be giving away spoilers. So if you don't like spoilers, do not continue past this point. Spoiler alert, as Left Claw Studios, which is Lurch, just posted right in the chat.
As I hit enter, I realized I was logged in as Left Claw and not as myself.
That's okay. We're used to that.
Yeah.
That's your channel. That's your channel, so we know. Anyway, Superman and Lois. Oh my God. Okay, let's see. Let's go by some of the numbers. First of all, the big thing we've been waiting for, the big reveal, was a little disappointing, which was Sam Lane's speech that was supposed to explain their position in the Arrowverse was really just a couple of statements to the kids. I thought it was supposed to be a full-on speech, but it basically just stated that although they're in the Arrowverse, because he claimed to have been to other worlds where there were lots of superheroes, Superman is the only hero in this particular world, which means that they have officially placed Superman and Lois in a world other than Earth Prime in the CW verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is officially part of the CW verse, but not part of Earth Prime, and that was done partly, and it's believed to be, and I kind of can agree with this, because they wanted to free up a lot of their possible plot lines, because let's face it, a lot of Superman's classic villains have already been used up in Supergirl. And this way they have the chance to refresh some of them. And that was a big thing. But I will say this about the new episode, getting away from that claim, because we'll probably be discussing that for a little while. I was almost dead on the money for most of the way they handled this episode. If you remember last week, I said something about him getting supercharged in the sun, and he did. I said something about Tal Rose showing up to do the saving of the day part. He did. I was right there on a lot of my predictions. I was dead on the money with that. I mean, they didn't try the X-Kryptonite thing, but that's okay. I said that was a possibility, but I said he'd probably do something like get flown close to the sun. Being flung in the sun is pretty close, I would say.
Yeah. Talro, I need you to throw me into the sun.
Yeah, right? And so I was pretty on the money with that. I liked the fact that Sarah pretty much just automatically accepted Jordan's keeping the secret because she understood what he was going through. That's more of how I thought Lana should have been, but of course Lana had also been lied to a lot longer and by more than just Clark. So I can see a little bit about her being upset too. Yeah. But in reality, that's a big secret.
Also, Sarah figuring out that her mother knew first kind of helped paint the idea that part of why Sarah didn't know is because of Lana, because of her mom telling not wanting her to know.
She had a different target for her betrayal. Instead of thinking Jordan was betraying her, she thought her mom kind of betrayed her trust by not telling her. So it gave her a different target because teens would always much rather blame the adults anyway.
Especially the parents.
Yeah, especially when she gets to be like, oh boy, I get Superboy as a boyfriend. Yeah. I mean, but it was a great episode. I like it that they finally named Allie Alston as her character because although a lot of people kind of thought about it, nobody was really quick to use the word Parasite, which was the villain that she was portraying in the because this is a completely different Parasite from the Parasite in the comic book. So that's why a lot of people didn't necessarily make the connection. I always kind of wondered if it was going to end up being Parasite, and then they finally call her Parasite in this last episode. So that was a good reveal too.
I remember they called her a parasite. I don't know if they used the word parasite as a name, just as a description.
Yeah, but they've officially come out and said that she was the villain Parasite. Even if they didn't name her Parasite in the show per se, they've come out and admitted that that's who she is.
It's like Bizarro because I don't think they ever called him Bizarro. He was Superman from another world.
But they referred to it as a Bizarro world on multiple occasions. So that was done by inference. But you're absolutely right. And the fact that they spoke in reverse, which is a Bizarro trait, really shows that was the Bizarro world. And then finally, the last big thing, which involved a retcon, was Diggle's cameo at the end when he comes talking to John Henry, and they preview at least one of the villains for the next season, which is Bruno Mannheim as a leader of Intergang. Intergang, of course, featured in a lot of Superman stories as the highly tech-advanced criminal organization that often came at odds with Superman using alien technology that was often provided to them. It ended up by Darkseid, among other alien sources of enemy tech. So Bruno Mannheim being in the as the next villain opens us up to a lot of that. And then, of course, the new Fortress of Solitude scene at the end with Clark saying to Jonathan how his mother really wants to meet Jonathan, the hologram, of course, not his real mother, but that she had a lot of Kryptonian tech to show Jonathan, it's prequeling the fact that Jonathan is probably going to be adapting to be like a tech hero using Kryptonian tech, but also maybe some of that tech will get away from Jonathan and be picked up by Inner Gang and adapted too. We don't know, because instead of doing the dark side origin of the tech, it might be stolen or acquired Kryptonian tech. Is the thing that I'm anticipating, and that a few other sources on the internet are anticipating is going to happen with the next season of Superman and Lois. But during this big reveal, they also retconned, because they mentioned the fact, that John Henry had met Diggle earlier in the episode during the Eradicator's saga, when he came from Argus and to help them with the weapon to possibly take down Superman if he went bad, when John Henry had not been convinced of Superman's altruism. And it's a retcon because he admits to being that John Diggle, but during that episode, those couple of episodes in the earlier Eradicator saga, he had actually mentioned Oliver Queen and some of the other heroes of Earth. So they retconned it and pretty much pretended that he never said anything about them, when they now say that he is a different Diggle from the Earth Prime Diggle. But he obviously does know about other Earths, because he points out that Bruno Mannheim killed the John Henry of this Earth.
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if John Diggle somehow has the means to transport between the two Earths.
It could be. It could also be.
It's really the only thing that makes sense at this point.
It could be the means to, or even could have been somehow forcibly swapped with his doppelgangers, so that this John Diggle might actually be the one from Earth Prime, and the one from this Earth might be the one stuck on Earth Prime now. They might have gotten swapped. And while that one's going around showing off the Green Lantern ring, trying to figure it out, this one is just running, missions for Argus. And it's a complete swap. We never know. I mean, they've got a lot of freedoms to do that. And of course, COVID has scrambled a lot of the things that they originally had planned, because they can't do a lot of their big crossovers.
That's all possible, but I think we haven't been giving any hints for why we would think there's two different Diggles, other than the idea that there is more than one Earth. But this Diggle is clearly the same Diggle from the past season of Superman and Lois that helped John Henry Irons. But he's also clearly aware of Supergirl and the other heroes. But when he's on Superman and Lois, he's in a world that only has Superman. So I think the only logical conclusion as of now, with the information given, is that he is transported between Earths,
except the showrunner has already come out in interviews and said that it's a different Diggle.
When did the showrunner say it was a different Diggle?
And in a couple of different interviews with some of the DC TV streamers and stuff, and things, he's come out and basically said this is a different Diggle.
All right, then.
Yeah.
These people don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, no, they specifically retconned it because they had made the decision to divorce Superman and Lois from the regular CW set of Earth Prime shows, because, among other things, they knew that this was coming down the pipe with the network changes and stuff. And they also wanted to give the show, they changed their mind and wanted to give the show the freedom to possibly reuse different versions of the villains that have already been used in Supergirl, because, of course, Lex Luthor's been used in Supergirl, and Red Tornado, and all these others have been used in Supergirl. So if they want to reuse these villains and other heroes and stuff later on, and bring out a new version of Supergirl, for instance, which is one of the things we're anticipating next season is a new Supergirl. Maybe not portrayed by Melissa Benoist. They want the freedom to do that. And so that was what part of the executive decision behind it. But only time will truly tell. Now, on to the... I don't think I left out anything else major from the... I mean, we know that the Superman went and got supercharged in the sun, which is what allowed him to defeat Parasite. By basically, he allowed her to try to absorb the power from him, but he overloaded her. He held her hand to his chest and said, come on, take it all, go ahead. And basically, and then just knocked her separate. He's like, and knocked her out of herself into two separate things that were powerless. And now they're captured and they're held in the DOD, but they're able to hold them in the same cell because they can touch and not combine because they're both powerless now. You know, they seem to be able to communicate with each other, but that's mainly because they're of the same kind of mind. We also got Lois's reveal to Chrissy that Clark was Superman, which totally excited Chrissy to no end. It's like, this is the biggest secret anybody ever shared with me. Oh my God. Oh wait, do I have to swear a blood oath or...
Yeah, she was pretty adorable about it, and then for like the whole rest of the episode,
she stares at Clark.
She was in the same room as Clark. She just stared at him the whole time.
He says, "We're gonna have to work on that."
Yeah.
I also like the fact that Lana didn't just automatically get back with her ex after all this, because that would have been the quick and easy way to get them back together. But it showed some character that Lana didn't just immediately forgive him. I think that it's good for her to tell him that, you know, you're always going to be in my life. You know, I do love you, and you're the father of our children, and all this. But I can't tell you that everything's back to normal either. That was well done. I thought that was good writing and much more believable, because most TV series would have had them come together at the end and then just have them happily walk into the sunset together. You know, this was a good way to handle it, so that Kush is still part of the show. He's still part of their lives. She's acknowledged that he is one of her loved ones, but she's not just going to be the beaten down ex-wife that just takes him back, all is forgiven. And that makes sense, because he still lied and cheated.
Yeah.
And lying and cheating should have repercussions. Yes, you give people chances and stuff, but there should still be repercussions. And I think that this showed a much more accurate portrayal of what would have happened. I mean, sure, the big adrenaline rush and scare and everything of the split worlds and all that would have inspired some changes and some acceptances, but they didn't go overboard with it. I like that. I think that the showrunners did a good job writing that. It is the soap opera-y part of the show, obviously, but it was nice that they did it the way they did it, and it's more believable, and we can see what goes on in the future. Just like they took Jordan and Sarah's relationship, and even though she was completely understanding and stuff, they didn't immediately go back to where they were. They're like, let's start over, which is not a bad thing. You know, and Sarah went on to even apologize for when she cheated on Jordan during the summer with her one lesbian encounter. You know, which she had never apologized for. She had acknowledged it to Jordan, but she had never apologized for straying, and she made a point of doing that, which was more coming clean in their relationship. And that, I think, will help them have a stronger relationship the way they wrote it. But We'll see. I think I've covered everything in the episode. Anything I leave out? I mean, I rewatched them today as usual. So.
Yeah, I watched it last Wednesday, so I'm a little bit fuzzier on it.
I always watch it 2 or 3 times just because.
Yeah.
I usually try a day or two before the show to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I forget.
Shoot, I don't.
I think I covered everything.
Yeah, I think you covered all the really important stuff.
Oh! John Henry was lost in space, and Natalie. They were going back and forth to the different worlds. Natalie did notice her tablet went with her, and she tried to connect with him when she was on Bizarro World. And they got like a partial connection. It said something about bringing her escape pod in to help him. So she does autopilot the escape pod while she flies in her suit, only to find that John Henry wanted her to bring as much X-Kryptonite as she could in the escape pod, because he was going to blow up the escape pod with the X-Kryptonite in order to separate the worlds and stop Allie.
Yeah.
However, they didn't do that. So in the end, they end up doing the Supreme Sacrifice. They transfer every bit of the power from both of their suits, except for the tiny little bit of like the air supply they have. That's about all they left in their suits. Transfer everything else into the escape pod and blow the escape pod with basically the power source for their suits as the way that they disrupt Allie's plan. And but luckily, then Tal Rose shows up to try to fight her, and then gets rescued, and then has to fly Superman into the sun and all this stuff. But he basically said, she's far too powerful. We have nobody else. And Clark's like, nope, there's one per person that can do it. Who's that? Me. He says, wait a minute, you don't have your powers. Yeah. Well, here's what's going to happen.
And then also at the very end, Tal-Rho left Earth and went to the Bizarro world.
While sending 2 brand new trucks for Jordan and Jonathan as a uncle gift.
Yeah, because he still has that Morgan Edge money.
Yep.
And sent them a couple of trucks.
Well, I mean, Jordan did save his life. I mean, Jordan was right. He kind of earned it. Although Clark's kind of not a fan of letting him keep the trucks. We'll see next season if they got to keep the trucks. But they're pretty hot trucks. They had freaking a holographic heads-up display system in the sound system, so it's pretty badass. But yeah, like you said, Morgan Edge went to Bizarro World, and here he's like, greetings, strange Earth people.
Yeah.
Hey, in honor, all drinks are on me. Yay! You know.
Gotta keep in mind he won't have his powers there for too terribly long. Like they'll have powers for a little while.
The Red Sun, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not hated there, like, and he's not a wanted criminal there, so he could have a life, a new life on that planet.
Oh, and he might actually have a way to go back and forth, because technically he went over there after they split off the worlds, which means he might have left some opening to get back and forth, so he might spend time in both places, because I mean, Tal is not stupid.
I was trying to think if we saw him on this side of the portal before or after it was closed or not. And
yeah, we haven't, but he did order the trucks after, possibly.
Yeah, you're right. He probably had the trucks ordered for delivery after the events are over. So,
which gives us evidence that he might have a way to go back and forth, which in Superman comics could simply be a matter of super speed and planetary orbits, because they often had Superman do some like Flashpoint-y kind of stuff by doing that. Oh, so who knows?
So I'm not entirely sure how Superman's splitting of the Earths worked, because we saw him after he got supercharged in the sun. He flew around, because like the Earth and the round Earth and the square Earth were like merged together, mostly merged, and he flies around the worlds a couple of times at an incredibly higher speeds than normal because he's super speed. Then he like lands on him with one of like solar energy, and then does like this big solar energy burst thing that then separates the world.
And that wasn't on the world; that was on the sun of that world. Because if you look at what he's hitting, it's basically he was hitting what looked like the surface of a sun, not the surface of the planet when he did that final push. It looked like the sun to me.
I thought it was the surface of the world, but the energy from him was expending out this bright glow.
It would make more sense what you say, because the red solar energy of the sun you'd think would sap him if he went that close to the surface. But the look of it looked like it was the sun. But we might not find out till next season, if at all.
Either way, I don't quite understand how that worked. They didn't explain it afterwards. It was a cool visual effect, and then the worlds are split up. We just have to trust that somehow his solar radiation burst he blew out was able to split up these two worlds that were being metaphysically combined into one.
Right, and of course, like I've said on a few other shows, which you keep forgetting, Superman has a power that people keep forgetting, which is the fact that he can adapt a new power occasionally when needed. And it's one of the Kryptonian powers that is not written about a whole lot, but is part of his repertoire. And if he has it, that means Tal-Rho could potentially have come up with a power to like be able to transverse worlds. So
yeah, he also could have been using some technology too, because
he's got Morgan Edge technologies. Yeah,
he has Morgan Edge technologies. He's got X-Kryptonite.
He knows Kryptonian tech.
Yeah,
they did things like exile people to the Phantom Zone and stuff like that. So they know other world technologies.
So with a guy like him with almost unlimited resources, I can imagine him finding a way to get back there.
Or, like I said, it could be a new manifestation of their powers. They may not even bother to explain it to us. It might not even need to be, because Tal-Rho may not be a recurring character.
Yeah.
If they don't bring him back a lot, they don't have to explain him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the freedom they get when they decide if they use the character. If they decide to use the character again, then they're probably going to have to explain how he's going back and forth. But they still might even leave it a mystery for a season or two.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go into The Flash now. And The Flash was pretty intense and, again, disappointing. Now, the Sam Lane speech was super disappointing to me, because that basically was a major letdown from what I was hoping for. But the big letdown, I think, for The Flash is we were told that we were going to get this great cameo appearance from the Arrowverse of someone we hadn't seen in a while. And it turned out, and the official word is this is who was supposed to be the cameo. Damien Dark was the big freaking cameo. Big fucking deal. It wasn't even Damien Dark. It was just a mental engram of Damien Dark in the Mind Stone. That's it. I was like so disappointed at that. That main factor disappointed me no end. I was expecting somebody from like Supergirl, or even something like from Black Lightning or something. Something you wouldn't expect. I wasn't expecting Damien Dark to show up. He periodically shows up anyway.
Yeah.
He's not even that much of a super special guest. He shows up once in a while. That's kind of like Tom Cavanaugh being back. You know what? We get Tom Cavanaugh periodically. It just happens.
Is that the actor that plays Harrison Wells?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, one person even put forward Tom Cavanaugh as a possible replacement for Ezra Miller, although I said no way.
Yeah. It's funny because I keep hearing that he's quit the show and he might come back for an occasional appearance, and then it feels like he's in 1/3 of all episodes of The Flash after quitting the show.
Right, which why I say he's not a surprise cameo. He's just like a semi-regular.
Yeah.
And Damien Dark isn't much worse than that. I mean, he shows up every like 6 episodes or so for a cameo. So
I think he's been in every show now. I'm sure there's a Black Lightning episode that he appeared in briefly.
He's not been in Superman and Lois, but then that one was considered separate. and he wasn't in Naomi for obvious reasons. But it's the thing is, they built us up with this big talk about having this nice, awesome, nobody would expect cameo at the end of Flash season 8, and that no one would suspect cameo was just a fucking another appearance by Damien Dark. I personally feel cheated. That feels like a cheat to me. They should have brought somebody in. I mean, I wouldn't care if it had been the new Guardian. Somebody. Ugh. But I just wanted somebody from Supergirl. Martian Manhunter would have been fantastic.
I really like Damien Dark, so I can't complain about Damien Dark.
I like Damien Dark, but he is not the promised big surprise because he's in the show a lot anyway.
Yeah.
He's no one would suspect. Yeah, we wouldn't suspect it because he's almost a cast member. They could have had Batgirl show up. They could have had Black Lightning show up. They could have had what's his name that played Black Lightning's tech buddy. They had no powers but made all their suits. They could have had freaking Painkiller could have shown up. There's lots of people that could have showed up for the cameo. Instead, we get Damien Dark again. Shoot! Booster Gold could have showed up. That would have been fantastic. Considering we got left with like a tease of Booster Gold and nothing, Booster Gold showing up would have been great. I'd have loved it. I ate that shit up. But Damien Dark was it. So, yeah, anyway, I was disappointed about that. Then we had the whole negative versus positive forces thing.
Yeah, so the story of this episode is kind of short because it's mostly about the flashiness. No pun intended. The negative forces. We find out the negative forces brought back Eobard Thawne so they could turn him into the avatar of the negative Speed Force, but then they also all give them all of their power. So he was like the avatar of all 4 negative forces.
Because basically what they said is we wanted to first, you proved to us we could do an imbalance during Armageddon when you destroyed Eobard Thawne and disconnected him from the negative Speed Force. So we first want to restore the negative Speed Force so that we're equal to our counterparts. And then we want to do the imbalance in our favor. So we're giving all our powers to Eobard Thawne to make him a super avatar.
Yeah. And then we also found out, and we might have gotten a little bit of this from the previous episode, that the positive forces were all basically
infected,
made sick using the time sickness that they gave to Dion, which spread to the positive force Dion, which then spread to the other 3 positive forces. Yeah. But Cecile was able to
bring Bashir back.
Bashir back using her enhanced powers, and he explained that he's the one who made it for her to be able to absorb other powers to give her a power boost for this purpose, so that she can bring him back. Then he siphons all of this extra power from her
using his mask,
and then works with her to bring the other 3 forces back, the positive forces back. Then all 4 forces show up to help Barry, and they all go into Barry. So now we got Barry, all forces Barrier, and all forces.
Yeah, we get a total Captain Planet moment by our powers combined.
Yes, and then the 2 of them are fighting in and around the city, destroying all kinds of stuff.
Then they roll back time.
People die. First a few dozen people die, and then afterwards hundreds more die. But then Barry is able to meditate and manages to rewind time, and
Eobard Thawne tries to shoot him with his lightning and it don't do shit.
Yeah. And then, like, basically he just proved that they're kind of at a standstill, and, like, no matter what Thawne tries to do, Barry can just reverse that, counter it back, and make no progress. And so Thawne then is like, I need more power because this isn't enough. And then he tries to somehow make himself stronger, but it overwhelms him. And that's basically how he loses, is by overwhelming himself.
Yep.
Because he can't handle that much power.
Yeah. Iris gets a new body from the Mind Stone, which is part of the
Time Stone.
Time Stone, rather, yeah.
Yeah,
The Time Stone.
Yeah, Damien Dark had left the Time Stone behind with Joe.
Yeah, with Joe.
Saying that he would need it one day. And then Iris was able to then be trapped inside the Time Stone, and then she was able to escape with advice from Damien, from this mental imagery of Damien anyway. So she was able to escape. And then, like, Eobard Thawne dies and is apparently completely erased from all of the rest of the timeline, so there's no more Thawne anymore.
Yep. And Iris was her connection with Barry was so weak that neither one of them could even feel it. But like Damien Dark was like, just because you can't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. And she basically was, it's like, think about it, and all these things that's happened, how have you always gotten through? And he's like, oh, so I need to basically re-spark the link. He said, yeah, now you're talking. And she basically focuses her Speed Force energy because she has shared Speed Force with Barry, so that's part of their link. And so she basically concentrates and she gets speed lightning all over her, disappears, and then she shows back up in the real world and shows up to stop Flash from basically giving up and trying to just kill Eobard. And that ends the final battle. Also, Eobard's new suit is awesome. I'm sorry, but I was what's his son? I can't remember his son's speedster name, but Bart.
Oh, Bart.
Yeah, but Bart's like, who's his tailor? Satan? But it was badass. I mean, let's just face it, it was a badass suit. And really, though, I think that they did an interesting thing. They didn't really prequel what's coming in the next season like we thought they were going to do as much. With it, they kind of left it open. We know that there's supposed to be another speedster. They mentioned Max, so we have a feeling Max Mercury is going to show up at some point. We know that what's her name lost her negative Speed Force, so she's powerless now. We know that Cecile at least gained telekinesis because she was able to move a cup of Java.
Oh, that's right. After having Bashir zap those powers away, she still ended up having telekinesis at the end. So
yep, because they mixed up their coffee order, and she was like thinking I would want my cup of coffee, and then flew out of Chester's hand and into hers. So she at least has some kind of telekinesis. So she still has an upgraded power. And Bashir had said that he had unlocked her potential, which means she still has that potential. He just unlocked it. So we're still probably going to see a superpowered Cecile and maybe even a Cecile gone bad for a few episodes. Also, we get a teaser in the labs of Caitlin and what's his name as they're trying to bring Frost back. We don't see into the pod that they opened up, but he's like, "Hey, who are you?" And then they cut. So
yeah, there's a malfunction. There, like the tank malfunctions or whatever they called it.
The cryopod, yeah.
Yeah, the cryopod malfunctions, and he panics, and he manages to bust it open, and then he doesn't seem to recognize who's inside anymore. And my thinking is it's Killer Frost, not just Frost. But
yeah, or something. It's going to be something different. And So that's definitely going to be something that they're going to explore in next season in some way. And yeah, like you said, it's probably going to be some kind of incarnation of Killer Frost. Probably not a Killer Permafrost, which is good because that's way too powerful. But they keep having to up the power scale in things because Barry keeps upgrading in power. And, of course, his allies keep upgrading in power. So we don't know what all is going to happen. We just know that he can't necessarily call on all of the people like Supergirl and stuff as freely.
It's the creep.
Yeah. But anyway, all in all, I'm of mixed feelings about the 2 finales for the CW shows this week. There was a lot to like in Superman and Lois, especially.
Yeah.
But some of the big reveals that we had anticipated were major letdowns. Like the whole Sam Lane speech that turned out to just be like an offhanded comment to the boys. That was not a speech by any... It was barely a motivational, like, don't worry, guys, kind of thing. And
I've seen worlds with leagues of superheroes, but all we've got is Superman.
Yeah, that's about all we got out of it. I do like the new Fortress of Solitude. It's much more comic book accurate because previously the Fortress of Solitude in the show has been an ice cave. It didn't really look like the Fortress of Solitude with the giant Kryptonian crystal edifice kind of structure, but the island does look like that. And so I like that. The fact that it's for the whole family means we're going to see Jonathan and Jordan and Lois out there at the fortress, and presumably John Henry and Natalie occasionally too, because they're basically honorary members of the family. We know John Henry is going to be a major part of season 9 because the whole Bruno Mannheim thing was introduced to John Henry.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something, so we can see that. And Bruno Mannheim also has a big connection to Lois because in the comic books, Bruno Mannheim, among other things, tried to buy out the Daily Planet at one point, and he's...
Who hasn't tried to buy out the Daily Planet? Everyone with money has either bought it out or tried to buy it out. In the comics, you know who owns it right now?
Lex Luthor, doesn't it?
Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, Olsen owns it now.
Yeah. So sometime, I don't know when exactly it happened. At some point, Lex Luthor didn't own it anymore. And I don't know. And at some point, Batman owned it, but that's not the case anymore either.
And Morgan Edge owned it at one point.
Yeah. A while back, the in the comics, it was owned for quite a while. For a while, it was owned by the Invisible Mafia. The Invisible Mafia owned it for a couple years, and after the owner and leader of the Invisible Mafia was outed, it became confiscated or whatever it was. I don't know. Someone had to buy it out, and so Jimmy Olsen decided to buy it. Because it turns out Jimmy Olsen is distantly related to Lex Luthor, and half of Lex Luthor's wealth now belongs to Jimmy.
Wow, yeah, it's gone through so many owners. Like I said, Intergang tried to buy it, and it was Bruno Mannheim, which was the representative of Intergang that did try to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, Morgan Edge was also linked to Intergang in some of the comic books. So when Morgan Edge owned it, it was kind of owned by Intergang as well. But it means that probably next season's going to feature a lot more Metropolis, possibly, and a lot more as far as the newspaper side of things, with Clark being the reporter Clark Kent as well as being Superman, because a big part of Bruno Mannheim in all the stories that he's involved with is how he's a corrupt newspaper man, among other things. So I have a feeling that they're going to focus in on the reporter side of things, with Lois working with Chrissy directly on the Smallville Gazette. It's going to end up being Clark as a mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Planet that is going to be a big part of it. And Lois is going to be a part of it, but from a different newspaper angle, I think. And we might even see Jordan or Jonathan maybe intern or something there as well. We don't know yet. Or Natalie. Natalie could intern.
I mean, I kind of expect that Clark is going to be employed at the Gazette, the Smallville Gazette. And it helps that the boss there knows that she's Superman.
Knows that he's Superman, yeah.
So she can always help with those excuses of he's out of town. He never has to explain to his boss why he's missing for a week or two.
Yeah, maybe. Although, like I said, with the Bruno Mannheim angle, he might go to work for the Daily Planet just to keep that link alive and that inside scoop on bigger news than what Chrissy can get. Because, I mean, let's face it, Chrissy is a small Gazette.
I don't feel like we have anything to indicate Superman's going to... that feels like it's going to be mostly a John Henry Irons story thread that Superman will sometimes get involved with, but mostly it's going to be about John going after Intergang.
But right now, it's the only thread we've got to go on, so we have no idea about any other villains for Season 3, other than Bruno Mannheim, really. And we do know that we're going to get more of John Henry and Natalie because of that. And possibly John Diggle. We also think that a lot of it might end up being based in Metropolis because Argus is based in Metropolis, and that's where Diggle is working. So if Diggle's going to be even a semi-regular cast member, I don't know if he's going to be regular, but we don't know if it is based. Argus is based in Metropolis, because he had said he came from the Argus in Metropolis when he came to give them the one weapon to use against Superman, and stuff. And Argus was traditionally based out of Metropolis, so it was just outside of Metropolis. It was the Argus facility, and so we're gonna. I don't think Diggle's going to be a main character because he's obviously going to have the new series he's going to be in. Yeah. But I think he's going to have enough cameos because he's already supposed to be on board to produce and direct a few episodes, which he's done throughout this season with all the Arrowverse shows. And they like David Ramsey as behind the camera guy, so, and he usually ends up doing a little bit of walk on when he does behind the camera work. Since he's there anyway, he might as well use himself as a guest star. It gives it a little bit of something. So we don't know what's going to go on, but that's it. Let's get off of the Arrowverse now. I think we covered everything within the Arrowverse, and we pretty much, the only other thing we got to talk about the Arrowverse is the fact that, like we already mentioned, Stargirl starts on August 31st, and the title for this season is Frenemies. And Melissa Benoist has already revealed in her Twitter account that it is definitely a murder mystery themed season, where it'll be both the good guys and the bad guys trying to figure out who done it. So that's going to be a major underlying theme. Plus, we have the return of Starman.
You mean Brett Basinger?
Yeah, Brett Basinger. Why did I say Melissa Benoist? Brett Basinger. Yeah. Yes, I got my super heroines mixed up there. Yeah, yeah. Brett Basinger has already revealed that, and of course we get Joel McHale as Starman. So they're going to kind of wonder which one the cosmic staff is going to go to. Is it going to go to Starman? Is it going to go to Stargirl? Is its loyalties going to be split? What's going to happen as Starman joins the cast, because we found out he is alive as Pemberton in the very tail end of season 2. And so that comes August 31st, and I can't wait. It, of course, was never part of the Arrowverse proper. It was always in a separate world, so it can continue as is without too much upheaval with the new changes to the CW verse. if they ever decide to bring stuff back together again, they can bring it back together again with some world hopping, which they've always got the potential to do because of the Flash's capabilities and also some of the capabilities of characters like, Dr. Midnight and stuff who can make super technology to do these kind of things.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. Okay, let's move on. Next is The Boys. The Boys. Okay, we had a lot going on, but nothing of really big significance, I think, this week, other than the fact that Starlight found out that repetitive use of V29 becomes fatal.
Yeah, after like 3 to 5 uses, it'll be fatal and kill you, destroy your brain or something.
And she lets Butcher know and to tell Huey, and Butcher doesn't tell Huey. Instead, he says, we need to go get more. Because he's still dependent on the stuff.
Yeah,
so,
Huey lost his phone because of his teleporting.
Yeah, because he leaves everything behind. He goes naked. So it's really hard to keep hold of a telephone.
Butcher, Soldier Boy, and Huey go after another member of his old team.
Like Mind Freak or something like that. I can't remember.
Something like that. And it's funny because they're told, all Soldier Boy tells them about him is, don't make eye contact. As long as you make eye contact, you're fine. If you do,
he locks you in. He locks you
in
a mental nightmare, basically. And he does end up doing that to Butcher. And Huey, just as him and Soldier Boy are about to confront him, Huey runs forward and teleports away with him to Butcher to save him from Soldier Boy and convince him to let Butcher go because he still considers Butcher somebody he owes. Because Huey still has some morals. And even though Starlight has pretty much written Huey off mostly, she, still cares enough that she wanted to protect Huey from overdoing the V29 and dying. She also gets confronted by Homelander in the halls of Vought when she's going in and finding this information. And she fakes him out by showing that she was live streaming as he admitted to certain things. And he's like, wait, we're not supposed to record when we're running lines. She's closing the elevator. Yeah. But she used it basically to get away, but I don't think she was actually streaming.
And the actual reason she was at the Vought building wasn't for information. She was going there to steal some permanent V compound V.
To help Kumiko.
Kimiko, yeah. To help her get her powers back.
Right, because since she was not on temporary V29, she was an adult recipient, well, not adult recipient, but an older recipient of regular V.
Yeah, she grew up with the stuff in her system.
Yeah, but since her powers had basically stopped working and she was beat up to the point where she could die, they needed to reactivate her powers to heal. And it healed her pretty quick.
She wasn't even trying to heal. She was wanting her powers back so she could protect Frenchie.
Yeah, but she also needed to heal because, she had internal injuries that they weren't sure about and everything. But as soon as she took the V, she got better with all of her injuries.
I agree that she needed that, but I don't think she felt that. I don't think she felt like she wanted to heal. She wanted to try to recover on her own.
She wouldn't have done it for herself. She only did it for Frenchie. Exactly. She'd have rather died. Because she hated her powers. Yeah. But she liked the fact that they could help her protect Frenchie.
Yeah.
And so
she also came to the realization, because of how violent she got without her powers, trying to protect Frenchie from these other people. She's like, the V wasn't what made me a monster. I always was a monster. The V just gave me the strength to act it. But now I want the power to protect those I love. And specifically talking about Frenchie.
Yeah, and that got to be a big thing. And And then, of course, Mother's Milk went off on his daughter's stepdad because he took her to a Homelander rally. Oh, my God, was he pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was livid. And when his ex-wife found out that she was kind of livid, too. It's like, wait a minute, you did that without my permission? And then he starts spouting how Starlight is just causing panics and that she's lying to... And freaking MM is like, no, she's telling the truth. Homelander's lying. He says, oh, no, you're just paranoid. He doesn't realize that MM has been deeply involved with this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody wants to believe Homelander, though, and so it's Allison just said she wants to punch that man so hard she can't stand Homelander. Oh, she wants to punch the second husband too, the stepdad. She wants to punch him so hard because Allison just wants to watch the boys mainly to see Homelander get his comeuppance. She's waiting for that.
Yeah.
And they did a total Darth Vader.
Yeah. At the very end, just before Soldier Boy kills Mind Freak reveals to Soldier Boy something that we don't hear as the audience, and nor does Huey or Butcher. But he then, at the very end, Soldier Boy calls Homelander, and it reveals to Homelander and to the audience that he is Homelander's father.
He says, like, they wouldn't have had to get rid of me. I would have gladly stepped down for my son.
Yeah, he's like, what father wouldn't want his father to, his son to take his place, in this job or something like that.
Yeah, he'd have been proud, because it turns out that they used his genetic material to make Homelander.
And according to his very colorful language, Soldier Boy jizzed into a cup at one point, and someone collected that cup and took that sperm to create Homelander.
And we suspect that Stormfront might have been the female component of his DNA.
That would be awkward,
right? Because that made for some genetic incest.
But as soon as that reveal happened, Allie yelled, "Fuck! No, Homelander's never gonna get killed. We're never getting rid of the asshole."
We don't know. We don't know yet, though, because they're still working. There's not a lot more to go over in The Boys this week. Waiting for next week, but the big Darth Vader reveal was the thing. They went full Darth Vader. In fact, one of the things they've been doing is doing a lot of parodying and Jensen Ackles has said how much he's loved to do some of the parodying stuff, like how they said Ant-Man should have crawled up into Thanos and expanded to blow him up from the inside, and so they did that with the penis scene in the one episode, and Jensen Ackles loves these parts of it, and so it's getting really intense.
Eric Kripke, the creator of the show, the showrunner, has recently said that he's in talks with Jeffrey Dean Morgan to be in season 4. Nothing confirmed yet, nothing in contract, but they're in talks for Jeffrey Dean Morgan being in season 4.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's that?
He played the John Winchester in Supernatural.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and he was also in some episodes of The Walking Dead, and he's been in a few things. Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And
I just never knew his name.
Yeah, they're bringing all the Supernatural people because
Eric Kripke, creator of Supernatural.
He's the creator of Supernatural, and then he adapted the Boys comic into this TV show.
Yeah, because Kripke did Supernatural all the way up till season 5 when he left.
Yeah, we've got Jensen Ackles, and we've got the guy who plays Robert Singer, Bobby Singer.
Robert Singer is the name of the guy that plays Robert Singer.
Is that the actor's name?
Yeah, and it's also the name of his character in Supernatural, Bobby Singer.
Yeah.
He just plays characters named him.
And then,
and he's one of the writers.
And now he's in talks with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and then with that news, he's also mentioned that he would like to get Jared Padalecki on The Boys as well.
I wouldn't mind seeing Misha Collins over there too, at some point.
An entirely different role, have him play like I don't know, some asshole character maybe.
Supervillain.
Yeah, supervillain. That'd be cool. But yeah. It's funny.
Now you could also get someone like Felicia Day, who's been in Supernatural a few times, and she loves these kind of shows, so she'd gladly do a walk-on role. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that would be interesting.
So that's The Boys. What's our next show?
Our next show is, of course, the Marvel Universe. Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Marvelous.
We now went to Karaka, like we thought, where she got to meet up with a group called the Red Daggers, which are like a secret society that's basically there to kind of fight the clandestine, and but they're also like allies of her grandmother, kind of thing. They some of them knew her grandmother and respected her, even though they didn't necessarily respect the rest of the clandestines. And they understood that the clandestines actually want to merge the worlds to basically take over our Earth with their reality. They want to bleed their reality into Earth till there's Earth is no more, kind of thing. And so they're actively working against them. And so we've got Miss Marvel running through different parts of Karaka. And we get to see a lot of the Karakan culture. We find that Kamala Khan is just, for being native Pakistani, doesn't have a really big tolerance for spicy food. Because she keeps asking, is it spicy? Which you wouldn't expect, because culturally speaking, they eat a lot of really spicy food in Pakistani culture. But, you know, they do that. They also do toffees in that part of the country are these really hard candies. It takes really strong teeth to chew. And I guess they were a weakness of her mother's. So her mother's mother had empty boxes of them all around the house that she never cleaned up because she always kept them around for her in case she came back. So we get a lot of interesting stuff going on in Karaka.
Yeah. And we find out that, I guess, part of the falling out between Kamala's mother and Kamala's grandmother was Kamala's grandmother was always talking about, you know, these fantasy things.
The mythology of the jinn,
Yeah, and Kamala's mother didn't believe any of it and believe her about any of that stuff. And that was a part of their, you know, separating, you know, as she came into adulthood.
Because she couldn't stand how she was kind of ostracized by the community because everybody told her she had this strange mother that just saw spirits and talked crazy talk. But her mother kept insisting it was real, and guess what? It was real. So her mother could kind of go, ha, see, it was real. So, you know.
Now they're trying to kill your daughter.
Right? And that's the thing. So
the clandestines show up and attack. They attack the
Red Daggers.
The Red Daggers, while Kamala's getting a history lesson from the Red Daggers, and there's a big pursuit where they manage to kill the guy who seems like he might be the leader of the Red Daggers. I'm not sure if that's what his title is.
The older gentleman that's kind of like
the older gentleman,
the thief master or whatever, the Fagin of the group, the main guy, and they've got this great 3D map table kind of thing going on too, which is pretty cool. Very Iron Man.
Yeah.
But we get to see a few different things like that. We're building up towards because there's 2 more episodes of Miss Marvel, so we still got a lot going on. We're going to see. She's got to go back to the States. We know that. Because among other things, Bruno, we know her friend Bruno's got to be a bigger part of this because he's her tech support and costumer.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
No.
But Bruno's going to be more of it, I'm sure, because they've written him in as the major tech ally of hers. He made her mask. He researches stuff about the making the tear in the world. He does that, and he's basically treated like a member of the family by her family. So we know he's a big part, and he's been accepted to MIT, but that's not going to stop him.
I think it's Caltech.
Or Caltech, not MIT, Caltech. He's been accepted to Caltech, but he doesn't want to abandon Kamala as his best friend. And pseudo love interest, she might not be interested in him that way, but he definitely has interest in her.
Yeah.
And they're just not really showing that off as much because it's a bit cliche maybe, but it's there. You can tell it's there.
She's more into Cameron.
Yes, which is one of the clandestine, so that can be kind of iffy, but at least he sided with Kamala instead of his relatives, so that's something.
Yeah,
that's points in his favor.
Yeah, and he's been abandoned by his family because of it.
He might even be dead. We don't know. He's dead or captured.
Really?
He might be. We don't know. When they broke out of damage control, she basically left him behind, possibly to either get gunned down or captured. So we don't know what's up with him right now.
I'm sure he escaped. We just don't know where he escaped to, but he's escaped separately from them.
Either that or he's joined damage control as an agent now. Who knows?
Yeah, that could be too.
This is Marvel. You get those kind of complications after a while. So we'll see what happens. Not a lot in this episode really to talk about. I mean, we really hit all the highlights, which is okay because we still got more to talk about this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have caught up with, and
I do want to add one thing. Something that was really nice about this episode. A fair amount of this episode was spent exploring that town in Pakistan and getting to see positive attributes of their culture. You know.
And it's a gorgeous area. Oh my God, it's beautiful, and the varieties of foods and all of that stuff is so. I would love to go to an eating tour of India and Pakistan.
Almost every other show or movie that has a scene in Pakistan, it's like a cave and it's all just awful and destroyed or terrorism and things like that.
Or it's dirty and deserted desert type areas and stuff. Yeah. This shows the beauty and the color and the vibrant life of Caracas.
Yeah.
That was nice. Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I wanted to add.
Come to Caracas, Mita. Okay. Next, I have caught up with and finished Season 3 of The Umbrella Academy, which could also have been subtitled The Sparrow Academy. because a big part of it was also The Sparrow Academy. Now, I will say that they came to what could definitely be a conclusion, so there may not be a Season 4.
Yeah.
They have not been renewed for a Season 4 yet. I would like to see a Season 4, but that would mean going completely out of the comic books at that point.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I was going to say the comic books only cover what the first 3 seasons cover the comic books, basically. So they did
anything else would be new material, yeah.
That said, the writer for the show does have an idea for Season 4 that he's already pitched to them that apparently he's had in mind since starting Season 1.
Yeah, it's just whether or not they get the kind of renewal kind of cred to do it. And right now, with the advent of COVID and everything, we're getting more and more seasons that actually get greenlit for a new season, and then they come back and decide to cancel it later, because they did that with What Women Kill. They just announced that What Women Kill, which was supposed to be renewed for third season on Paramount Plus, suddenly got canceled, even though it had been renewed like 7 months ago. So some things are getting at, and it's happened in the past before with some shows, but in general, usually if a show is greenlit for another season, we get that new season. Other examples of things like that was Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. They did that because they had renewed it, and then as the season finalized, the ratings suddenly tanked at the last few episodes, and they decided it wasn't worth going forward. And so that's something we got to worry about. Even if it does get renewed initially, we got to watch it.
Well, something about, since the way Netflix tends to work, and they put out putting out all their episodes at once, kind of a thing. Not always, but oftentimes they will usually, I guess, their normal MO is to announce renewals a month or two after the show releases, or after a season releases.
So they can see...
They see what kind of viewership it got.
Speaking of which, Stranger Things is now the second show that Netflix has put out to reach over 1 million hours viewed in the first, freaking month of its release.
Wow.
Stranger Things Season 4 has got 1 million hours of viewership already.
I know that Volume 2, when Volume 2 dropped, Netflix crashed because so many viewers tried to watch it at once. It crashed their servers.
I think they were the first one to get 1 million views in the first month, was Season 2 of Stranger Things. And then Season 4 did it again.
So... Yeah, the Stranger Things, I think, was a little bit of an anomaly of announcing there was going to be another season before that season came out, and it was before 4 came out. Well, and part of it was because they wrote it with it. They had a story in plan to finish out the series or something like that, so they needed a 5th season to finish the series.
Well, and 4 and 5 were both greenlit at the same time as part of it. When they greenlit 4, they greenlit 5 at the same time.
Did they?
Yeah.
So, that was. And I'm sure that's because of that. Because the plan that they had would take this many episodes or whatever. So.
And like we said, they are planning to do a spinoff of Stranger Things, not helmed by the Duffer Brothers, but advised by the Duffer Brothers. They're still looking for somebody else to be the showrunner.
The Duffer Brothers did just announce that Season 5 will be shorter than the other seasons.
Yeah, but and it will wrap up their storyline.
Yes.
It will wrap up the story of 11. And they also said that... Go ahead.
I was going to say, the reason why it'll be shorter, they said, is because they won't need as much time to develop the show character development building over the season.
Well, yeah, because they're going to start basically right from the point they left off instead of having a little bit of time pass. In this case, it's really almost a continuation of Season 4. It's Season 4.5. I mean, is what 5 is going to be. Because they really left us at a bit of a cliffhanger kind of element there. But anyway, back to the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
Okay. We start the show where they show up at the Umbrella Academy mansion, although it is now the Sparrow Academy, and we've got a different set of, almost a different set of 7 heroes, because one hero is quite familiar. Ben is now is number 2 in this particular set of heroes, and he's still alive with his tentacle powers. He's basically a living squid. And number 1 is this African-American kid who's got super strength, kind of like the other number 1, but he doesn't have the ape DNA thing going on, so he's not as deformed like our number 1, like Luther is.
Yeah, and he's not quite as physically strong, but he's very athletic.
Yeah, he's much more agile, among other things.
Yeah.
because you see him like doing handstand push-ups and shit on the top of a
Yeah.
roof on the side of a building way up high.
Not that it mattered a whole lot after the first episode.
Yeah, he goes away pretty quick. But the other members of the Sparrow Academy were really interesting characters. Of course, we had the blind-ish girl who could manifest ravens out of her body and then see through their eyes.
Yep.
We had the living cube of psychic energy force.
Yeah.
We have Sloane, the gravity mistress, who had control over gravity. Basically, it was like a form of telekinesis, but they kept saying it was gravity powers.
Yeah.
And trying to think of what other. Oh, then they had the zombie-looking dude, who, if you hit him, you'd feel the pain from hitting him.
Yeah, he was well, if you hit him in the face, there's only the face.
Only the face. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed to be his limitation.
But he's like a living voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, that wasn't true because when he got cut on the leg, someone else got cut too. So I guess it's just
he had to be ready for it. If he wasn't, I think so, because when he was hit unawares, it didn't seem to do it. But as soon as he was aware and egging him on, and they did it, it affected them. So that was the thing. And then
his effectiveness of his voodoo doll abilities did feel a little inconsistent sometimes. Like, he'd be fighting Diego, and Diego would punch him in the face, and Diego would respond to his face. But Diego would kick him in the side and wouldn't seem to have a reaction to it. And so,
yeah.
But then he gets cut in the leg, and the guy who cuts his leg gets their leg cut.
Yeah. So, speaking of the Umbrella guys, not Diego, but Klaus leveled up, boy, because it turns out that Klaus's power wasn't just to talk to the dead. He's basically immortal. He can come back from death.
Yeah.
And he goes on a road trip with Hargraves.
Keep in mind, the Hargraves is different than the one from season 1. It's the same person, but it's a different timeline.
It's this timeline's Hargrave that never raised Klaus. But he seems to be a little bit more touchy-feely than their Hargrave. But he's also been whipped by his kids because they've been drugging him and controlling him instead of him controlling them, like he did with the original Umbrella Academy. So we have that to consider as well. And, of course, like we had said in previous weeks, the person who played Vanya is now Victor, because they went and did a gender reassignment, and is now Elliot Page is the name of the actor. I don't remember what the previous name of the actor was, but they embraced and wrote it into the story. And they explained it in the story as basically this is who he always was, which is how a lot of transgender individuals do feel, but they made it so natural and accepted, which is a really landmark thing for a show like this. To do that. That was beautifully done, I thought. The acceptance there. I mean, they still ended up making a bit of a contention between Victor and Allison later on, but it wasn't because of that. It was because basically what was almost like an adoptive son to Victor / Vanya was fully grown and ended up being the one that killed their parents.
Yeah. The kid from season 2 who drowned and she saved his life and then ended up having powers. When she tried to take, or he, I guess, when Victor took powers from the kid, didn't quite get everything, and the kid ended up growing up with powers still.
And not real control over him.
Yeah. And then his mother died at the same time that the kids were all supposed to be born. And by kids, I mean the Umbrella Academy kids, the Sparrow Academy kids. There's 43 women having kids all at the same time on October 1st of 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt them, and he tried to reach out to them, but through his powers, but instead of contacting them or whatever, accidentally killed 26 of these women or something.
Yeah,
including the ones that were the parents of the Umbrella Academy,
which is why they're a big part of why their timeline changed. And it pissed Allison off because, of course, she had a daughter named Claire who didn't exist in this timeline. And she's devastated by that.
Yeah.
But Victor lies and doesn't tell her that when she finds out that he was the cause, because in a lot of ways to her, he's her adoptive son because she fell in love, or she when she did it, but Victor had fallen in love with his mother and had become kind of a family unit in season 2. So, and then of course we also see quite a bit of 5 running around with super agent chick from the commission, who is basically Diego's girlfriend, who drops a kid off with the Diego in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Then it turns out later on it isn't even her kid. She just dropped it off to test him out to see how good a parent he would be.
Yeah.
Before she told him that she was pregnant.
Yeah, she's like, it may have been a few days for you, but it's been 12 years for me. Here, take your son. Be responsible for him. Be a dad for once or whatever, and then takes off.
And then the kid was in on it, though, we find out.
Yeah, it ended up being a whole, prank kind of a thing, test prank or whatever, because the kid's mom was terrible and was going to be missing for a couple of weeks.
Well,
so
the kid's mom was basically her grunge band partner, that she met on the Berlin Wall when she was breaking it up to get to a secret hidden briefcase in one of the foundation stones where her quote-unquote mom had left it, which was, of course, her handler from the commission. That we remember. And we find out the founder of the commission is 5 himself.
Yeah. Old man, number 5.
Old man 5, yeah, he's like 100 years old. And one of the things he tells 5 is, don't save the world. So when it comes down to it, and Hargrave has a plan to save the world, 5 don't want to do it. So Hargrave ends up killing Luther, who has fallen in love with one of the Sparrow Academy girls, Sloane, the Gravity Girl, and is even, as the last thing on Earth, he marries her. And their Ben doesn't even get invited to the bachelor party, which, of course, pisses him off no end, because he just wants to be accepted. That's his big thing. He also wants to be number 1 of his team, but there's infighting about that. But of course, 5 is still the smartest of the Umbrella Academy kids and the oldest, even though his body doesn't seem like it. And so we see him do things like drink scotch and have a cigar, and he figures different things out throughout it. Well, Klaus and Hargrave are on their road trip, learning how to get Klaus to come back from the dead faster and faster until pretty soon he can come back in less than 30 seconds. He's actually able to come back so fast that right before he dies, Hargrave throws a ball and he comes back in time to catch the ball, which basically is that quick of rejuvenation. But it means that the veil, which is what they call the afterlife in this, is Klaus's home turf. So later on, when Luther gets killed by Hargrave, in order to inspire them to go into Project Oblivion, which is this otherworld door, that requires 7 of them to go through in order to activate the stuff in the door, but he couldn't get 7 of them to agree to go. So he kills Luther, blames it on the guardian beyond the door to get everybody to go. Then he kills Klaus to stop Klaus from going with him, because he basically says, at this point, you're a hindrance.
Yeah, he says you're I forget his exact words, or something like your powers are more of a problem or something. And really it's down to he's afraid that Klaus is going to use his powers to speak to Luther and learn the truth about being murdered by Hargreaves.
And he does actually speak to Luther, and he tries to convince Luther to stay in the Veil with him. But Luther basically forces Klaus back to life, and Klaus then gets to tell the others that what happened to Luther happened. We find out that Hargreaves is really a insectoid alien, and
Hargreaves was hoping that, because he knows that Klaus can bring himself back to life real easily. He was hoping that by Klaus's body being in a world that doesn't exist anymore, that it would keep him from coming back, but it didn't. That wasn't it.
Because of the grandfather paradox, yeah.
His recovery power is so effective. He's able to come to life in the Hotel Oblivion despite their universe not existing anymore because of the Kugelblitz being destroying the universe because of the time paradox.
Yeah, and the
That's
Kugelblitz
what destroyed the universe this time was the time paradox.
Yeah, the Kugelblitz is a giant, basically, fireball version of, like, not a black hole, but a singularity that was created because of the thing called the grandfather paradox.
Yeah.
Which is basically when you go back and kill your grandfather before you're conceived, which means that you couldn't exist in the first place, causing a major paradox. That's anything that does that is a grandfather paradox. And that's what basically them in this timeline created, was a grandfather paradox, which caused major issues. And so again, they'd already spent the last 20 days trying to save the world twice from Armageddon, and they had to do it a third time because it's a full-time job for these guys.
Yeah.
And
it turned out they failed.
It turned out that Project Oblivion was this giant super alien computer system machine, and they needed the energy of the powered kids to power it. And so they each have to stand on a star in the main room of the Hotel Oblivion on the Oblivion side, Project Oblivion side of it. And then he gets this holographic interface, and he's trying to do that. And the only one he doesn't have on one of the stars, so it doesn't get drained at the time, is Allison, with her rumor powers, because he'd made a deal with her because she wants to go back, reset time to get Claire back.
Yeah, she wants Claire and Ray both.
Yeah, Claire and Ray. Ray is her husband from
63.
From 63 when he fought for black rights. Where Patrick is the name of the person she had Claire with in the future, but somehow she ends up at the end with Ray and Claire. So
that's because this machine that Hargreaves used wasn't changing the timeline. He was recreating the universe by his design.
Yeah, he's resetting it.
It's not just a reset. He's recreating it basically. Because whenever we come back and we see this world, almost all the skyscrapers have Hargreaves' name on it.
That's true. That there is. Hargrave Industries has got the biggest skyscraper in town. That's for sure. And we see him up there with his wife that he had based the robot on, and he hugs her at the end.
Yeah, Abigail, I believe, is her name. Which we find out she was on the moon all this time, and Luther was really to try to make sure nothing happens to her, but he didn't know that's what he was saying.
Right, and also the robot version was actually worshiping the singularity as God. So, so she got pissed when they tried to capture God.
Yeah, and she went all Terminator on him, the flamethrower. That was fucking cool.
It was awesome. Needless to say, if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, all 3 seasons of The Umbrella Academy are on Netflix. I wholeheartedly endorse going there to see it. It's an amazing show. It's definitely worthwhile. Next week, we will have a lot lighter media section, so we'll be able to handle some other topics again next week, because next week we will not have any Arrowverse shows. We will not have, Obi-Wan has already ended. Umbrella Academy has ended. Stranger Things, which we didn't really cover much of. So let's do some Stranger Things for the last 5 minutes, plus we'll go over maybe a little bit. Okay. Stranger Things, we had the last 2 extended episodes of season 4 dropped on Friday. And oh my God, so much happened. 11.
So we'll start off. The kids came up with a plan. We'll start off with that. The kids came up with this plan to try to fight it because they kind of got together. A lot of them did anyway. Not the ones that are looking for 11, but the other ones in Hawkins.
Different
got together.
Nancy's team, Nancy and Duncan and the DM and all them that are in Hawkins. The Hawkins team came up with a plan.
The Team Hawkins came up with a plan where they're going to have 2 or 3 of them try to be a distraction. Like Max is going to be a distraction, take off her headset and communicate with Vecna to get his attention.
Because they found out that Vecna needed 4 deaths in order to open up the path to the Upside Down. And she's going to make herself the 4th target.
Well, she was already the 4th target, and so she's going to distract him. And they realized that Vecna's powers are the same base as 11's, which means when he's using his powers to do that walking technique, that his body is probably stationary in one spot, just like invulnerable, just like 11's is. And so, 3 of them, Steve, Harrington, Nancy and Robin, go to the Upside Down to attack Vecna directly.
At the mansion where he grew up. The Upside Down version of the mansion where he grew up. While Lucas and Max are at the real world mansion where he grew up in the attic. And Max is there. She takes off her headphones in order to be a target. And Lucas is there to, signal when they go into the different sections of the plan. And also in an emergency to throw the headphones on Max to get her out if she starts to float.
Yeah. Also, Lucas's sister is there, and I forget Lucas's sister's name.
Yeah, but she's across the way in a treehouse. Yeah. And they're using flashlights to communicate.
Yeah, she's at the park, and she's using flashlights to communicate with them, but then talking into the Upside Down.
Where Duncan and the DM are at the opening to the portal to the Upside Down, and their job, Dustin, not Duncan, Dustin and Eddie, their job is to distract the demon bats, who are like the backup for Vecna, to get him away from Vecna's body so that the others can attack Vecna without being stopped by the demon bats. So, among other things, that means they come in with an electric guitar Master of Puppets solo that is awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect song for it, too.
Master of Puppets.
Master!
It was the perfect jam for the bard to play while they're trying to destroy Vecna. It was fucking beautiful.
They could not have been a better song than Master of Puppets. Kind of like how Sweet Child of Mine is the perfect soundtrack for the new Love and Thunder trailer. Master of Puppets was the perfect sound for this scene on Stranger Things.
Yeah. Oh, it was so cool.
It was badass.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. And Eddie was just badass on the electric guitar. And then they'd done these spiked shields out of like trash can lids. And then come up with like freaking mocked up weapons.
They had like spears with knives attached to them.
With Bowie knives attached to the end, combat Bowie knives. And they were going in and Eddie ends up sacrificing himself instead of running away to increase the distraction instead of running when he has a chance. And then Dustin comes down freaking limping as hell and tries to get to Eddie in the end. And in fact, when it's all said and done and they're at the high school as survivors, and Eddie's father is putting up missing posters because he keeps saying his son didn't do what everybody said he is. He's not an evil cult leader, all that. And I'm going to keep putting these up to... He basically says he was with his son when his son died, and that his son died a hero, and it was a very moving speech.
Yeah, he's like your son died a hero protecting the town that hated him.
Yep, and that was so awesome. And he basically also turned over the mantle of the Hellfire Club to Dustin. So Dustin is officially the successor of Eddie at the Hellfire Club. Yeah. Now, while the Hawkins team is going, we've got two other teams because we have Mike and Will and the hippie and what's his name? Well, and Nancy's boyfriend going to go get 11.
Yeah, Will.
I know. I said right. Will. I can't remember the other guy's name. Nancy's boyfriend. But Will's older brother. Will's older brother.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah. Are going to go rescue Elle, who's in a bunker in the middle of the fucking desert. With Papa, who's amping up her power, trying to reignite her powers. But then when she's going to go help them because she dreamwalks and sees that Max is going to be putting herself at risk, and she's like, I need to get to Hawkins now to help them. Paul Reiser's character takes and says, I can get you there in 2 hours. But then Papa captures Paul Reiser's character, basically threatens him to keep control of Elle. And then the military shows up to try to take Elle out. But Elle is outside and freaking basically causes a helicopter to freaking crash with her powers. And just about that time, Mike and them show up in the hippie pizza van.
They show up as Elle is fighting the helicopter, basically. And so they start honking the horn, and basically them honking the horn on the truck was enough distraction for Elle to get up and use her powers on the helicopter. Yeah. So their horn honking, Jonathan's horn honking in the little pizza van was
saved Elle.
Yeah, saved Elle and gave her enough time to get her strength together to take that helicopter and crash it into the other trucks owned by the military, so they couldn't follow after.
Right.
Also, Papa got shot by the helicopter people and is seemingly dead. But with his dying breaths, he released her from her little collar thing and told her he's proud of her or whatever. And then they escape.
Yeah, and then Paul Reiser is dead now. So they can't use his contacts to get to Hawkins.
I know the last time I remember seeing him, he was cuffed. I don't remember if he died.
He may or may not have actually died. They kind of leave it a little ambiguous. But he's out of the picture as far as getting her to Hawkins. But she figures out that if she could get a bath of salt water, she could dreamwalk and help, because Vecna is going to attack Max in her mind, and Elle can be there in her mind to defend Max if she can get into a sensory deprivation tank of salt water. Yep. And they're like, but we need a lot of salt. And the hippie guy's like, wait a minute. Because they had seen as they were crossing the border that Surf Pizza, which is this pizza parlor he worked for, had a chain there in the state they were in. So he takes them to a Surf Pizza place. He says, like, will a 600-pound bag of salt be enough, dudes?
Yeah.
And they go in and the kitchen's closed, but he talks to the other surf dudes. And they bribe him with marijuana.
Yeah.
And then they go back and they use the big freaking dough tank, fill it with water and then salt, and they tape pizza cardboard boxes over some shades to block out the light and stuff and do a sensory deprivation tank and put Elle in there. Okay, so she can now go help Max. That's team 2. Now, team 3 is Joyce and Hopper and what's his name? Who are in Russia, and they can't get back to Hawkins in time to help the kids. So they get the bright idea, well, what if we like massacre the
yeah, I don't remember if the previous episodes before these last 2 revealed that there's one of those cloud monster things like mind flayers in the prison or not. That might have been in one of these 2 episodes. But yeah, this group in Russia finds in that prison a bunch of monsters, not just the one, but a bunch of monsters.
But
and a cloud, the cloud, at least a portion of the cloud creature that we've seen before.
Yeah, they call it the particles. But then there's demogorgons.
Yeah, the Americans refer to it. Well, the adults describe it as particles. The kids call it the mind flayer. The Russians call it the shadow.
Right, and then of course the individual beasts, Hopper calls the demogorgons because that's what the kids had called it, and that's the thing with the rose petal mouth.
The tall white one is the tall pale one is the demogorgon, and then the smaller ones are demodogs.
Right, but Hopper doesn't know the difference. He just calls them all demogorgons.
He might.
Anyway,
so either way,
they get an idea that if they can kill the particles, whatever it is, that it will distract Vecna and help the kids in their struggle, and it's the only thing they can do to help. So they had just broke out of the prison, and all of Russia's looking for them, and now they have to break back into the prison.
Yeah, which ends up being easier to break into the prison than they thought because the prisons have been underrun by the monsters.
Yeah, overrun by the monsters. And they take with them a flamethrower because what works better against demogorgons than a flamethrower?
Yeah.
And Murray, that's it, Murray.
That's it. I knew it started with an M, but I could not think of the rest of it. I was like,
yeah, Murray.
Money.
I kept wanting to say like more. I wanted to say like Morty, but I knew that wasn't right. No, it's Murray. Murray. They give him the flamethrower and tell him to get up on the balcony and flamethrow them when he gets them into the big central room. And then Hopper goes to draw a single one of them because they've got a hive mind, figuring if he drew the one, that they all come. And he's to lead it into the big freaking chamber where they were going to have them do the standoff with the prisoners in order to feed them to the demogorgons and demodogs. Yeah. And Joyce is supposed to be monitoring on the security footage, but she ends up coming with one of the electric cattle prods to save Hopper when he gets knocked down by the demogorgon demidog. And then they get him out there, and then suddenly Murray goes with the fire and attacks them, which helps distract Vecna, which allows, in the dream realm, allows Elle to kind of gather her strength and fight back when she's practically defeated, because she's up, tied up, and strung up, because he wants her to watch as he starts to break Max's limbs and stuff like he normally does when he's basically doing his like takeover thing. At this time, Lucas, who should be waking her up with the Walkman, can't because the football player is shown up in the attic, has stomped on the Walkman, so it's useless, and is in a fist fight with Lucas. And so we get Lucas versus the jock, while the jock's buddies are chasing after Lucas's sister.
Yeah, and the guy tried to shoot Lucas, but Lucas just got lucky enough that he was able to duck under it and tackle the the football player, and then the gun got knocked away somewhere. And, so he's busy fighting, getting attacked, and the football player is like yelling, telling Lucas that he needs to wake her up from this trance or he's gonna kill him or whatever. And,
right.
So she just starts floating in the air, and her limbs start to break, and Lucas is still dealing with this football kid.
And then it's purely Elle that ends up reinvigorating her to the ability to actually wake up. Yeah. But she doesn't wake up, she just doesn't die. But she's dead for like a minute.
Yeah, she's dead for 1 minute, which was long enough to succeed in the
opening of the
portal.
Yeah, so you see 4 red cracks go through Hawkins and meet in the middle, and then we get a giant mind flare cloud in the air. Yeah. And then
the football player gets ripped in half as the holes are ripping open.
Yeah, and but basically they quote unquote defeated Henry, number 1, Vecna. All 3 are the same person, and but he's defeated but not dead, and that's the thing.
Yeah, and the team Nancy, Harrington, and Robin, they make it to Vecna, in part because of Team Russia's attacks, their help. So they make it to Vecna.
And partly because of Eddie's distraction with the bats.
Yes, and partly because of that. Because of all of it coming together, they make it to Vecna's physical body when he's in his trance floating up in the air with the little things attaching him to the attic ceiling. And they hit him with a couple of Molotov cocktails, and they blast him with a shotgun a few times, and he gets knocked out of a window and falls to the ground on fire. But by the time the kids can make it back downstairs, the
body's gone. Yeah,
the body's gone.
And so then we have everybody meet up in Hawkins, and the kids meet up around Max's bedside at the hospital. Then they go out to the cabin to clean up, and
it 11 was like a 2 days later thing. Like the city gets ripped apart, and then it's like a 2 days later, and the news is like, we had a category 7.5 earthquake, blah blah blah.
Yeah. The pizza van shows up first, and they're like, "Did somebody order pizza?" Because it's over at Mike's house, and Mike's parents are there. And they're like, what? And they look up, and then out of the pizza van comes Mike and Elle and the hippie guy and everybody. And they're like, oh, right, awesome. The team's back together. And where were you? We've been trying to contact you. He says, oh, you wouldn't believe what was going on. And,
but we know everything about what's happening.
Yeah.
We know about Vecna. We know all this. We know it wasn't an earthquake.
So then they go to the cabin, and they're cleaning up the cabin. And Elle goes into her room to clean up. But she leaves the door open a little bit because Hopper had always told her 3 inches. 3 inches. Yeah. And then when the door opens next, who's at the door but fucking Hopper? And how you doing, kid? She's like, 3 inches. I remembered.
Yeah.
And then of course when she sees Joyce, she gives Joyce a big hug, and she says, I'm glad your conference went well, because the conference was their excuse to go to Russia in order to save Hopper. And obviously, it was a good conference because they saved Hopper and stuff. Yeah. And then they're looking out over the horizon, and they're seeing the freaking mind flare clouds with the death lightning and fire in the sky and everything. And they know that the final battle is imminent, and that's where they end the season. And you're like, oh my fucking God, what a cliffhanger. Because so season 5 is going to be shorter, because they're basically going to start right from where they left off. And the Duffer Brothers have promised an amazing outcome. And if anybody can do it, it's the Duffers. They're just such great storytellers. And all the kids are great. I can't wait to see Dustin in some other shows. I mean, Mike and Elle are getting a lot of stuff, but Dustin and Will are not yet. Will would be an interesting choice as a replacement for Ezra Miller as a Flash, because he's got actually more of the look of Ezra Miller. He's got that more clean-cut, nerdy look. So he might be a thought, because they got to recast Ezra Miller. Also, on the front of recastings and stuff, it is official today that Johnny Depp is again Jack Sparrow for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. He is the mascot of the ride again. So he's on better terms with Disney. He's not been confirmed for the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie as of yet, but he's back on the ride as a mascot.
Yeah.
So that's showing that Disney is mending fences with Johnny Depp as things go. But Ezra Miller is definitely out. We still don't know exactly what they're going to do with the movie, but Ezra Miller is not going to be in any future projects with DC and Warner Brothers Pictures. And so we've got that to go on. We've also, a couple days ago, dropped a new Black Adam trailer.
Real quick about Ezra Miller. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I spent some time recently reading more details about the drama around Ezra Miller, and I'm not convinced he's as bad as he's being made out to be.
There's some bad and some not so bad. I mean, they've actually got him on film being extremely aggressive and stuff to like paparazzi and things like that. And they have testimonials from underage girls, especially Native American underage girls, that he had propositioned. So,
I haven't heard anything about that at all, but some of the things I was reading was like he has. I saw a news headline recently about how he's got a woman and a couple of kids living on his ranch, and people are saying it's unsafe conditions for them. But the people who are making the argument or making the claims that it's unsafe is like the woman's ex-husband and a couple of anonymous tips that are saying it. But it's been investigated by like social services that said there's nothing wrong there, and that they're from Hawaii, and Ezra has supposedly helped them escape Hawaii and has given them a safe place to stay because their husband was violent and kept coming after them.
I'm not sure. I know that one of the Hawaiian kids was like 12 years old when Ezra first started talking to him, and it was getting supposedly inappropriate brainwashing.
So the other story I've seen, and I think it might be the one you're referring to, is there. I don't think there's been any proof about Ezra talking to them at age 12, but about like 17 or 16. And the thing I've seen is because I don't know if you know this, Ezra is like gender fluid.
Yes, I know that.
Or whatever. And this kid, this kid who is whose parent is trying to claim that Ezra is grooming their daughter. Their kid is trans, and the mother refuses to use the child's preferred pronouns and keeps constantly referring them as a her, and is claiming that Ezra is brainwashing their daughter. And I'm wondering if it's a bigoted mother who hates that their child is trans and is.
It might be, although that story also says that he started, quote unquote, brainwashing her at age 12. Which, still, I mean, a person could end up starting to realize that their gender fluidity at that age. But it depends on because the allegations I'm hearing is that Ezra Miller took advantage of their youth and inexperience to unduly influence them.
That's what the mother is saying. That's what the mother who is refusing to use her daughter's, their kids' preferred pronouns is claiming.
But part of it is also supposed to be inappropriate familiarity too, which Ezra is too old to be with a kid that young in that familiarity. But again, it's all accusations. It could be, like you said, a bigoted mother.
Yeah. I was going to say, if the mother, I mean, the mother obviously is not accepting of their child's transgenderism, but they're always, and anti-trans people are always saying that trans people are trying to touch their kids. Basically, that's their supposed argument against trans.
A mark against Ezra Miller, though, is the fact that he is wanted by the police for some of his activities, and he's not coming forward. He's in hiding. And that kind of lends credence to guilt. Because if he could justify and come in and say, look, I'm defending their rights, and bring them forward to other groups that will defend their rights, and the answer to the allegations.
I mean, I know he's been arrested for getting in the fights in public, but I don't know. I don't think there's a current warrant for his arrest.
There is. That's one of the things that's on it, is he's currently being sought after for arrest.
But even so, everything I've been reading recently, it's all like
circumstantial
claims from people. Yeah, and I'm like, there could be a lot. Like there could if
it turns out that he's defending somebody's right to gender identity, I'm 100% behind him for that.
Yeah.
If it turns out that he's just maybe a little bit of an angry celebrity, celebrities get angry. It happens.
That's true.
But if he's being inappropriate to underage kids, especially underaged native culture kids who are often unduly targeted, that I'm not for. And DC Warner Brothers has decided to completely wash their hands of the situation.
Yeah,
now, if he was to come out to end up being innocent,
I mean, they washed their hands of Johnny Depp too. Whenever he was being abused by his wife,
but he came out as innocent in the trial, and now it looks like at least Disney is back into dealing with him, and Disney's super strict when it comes to that kind of morality. So
my point is let's be not too harsh against Ezra Miller right now, because we don't know the truth of what's happening. Everything I've been finding, it's been like allegations. There's been allegations against Ezra, but the kinds of situations that I'm seeing, and the people who are supposedly the victims of these crimes are saying he's not doing anything to us, just supposed loved ones of them. It's the mother claiming that Ezra is abusing their now 18-year-old kid, who they still insist on saying is their daughter, but isn't a daughter at this point. And then it's the ex-husband of that woman that's living on his ranch that's claiming that the kids are unsafe and that he's keeping them against their will.
Yeah, it's true.
And the mother has been like, and the woman's like, no, we came here to hide from my ex-husband because he was hurting us.
And that is something we do have to take into account, is that we do not always know the full story.
Yeah.
So you're right there. All I know is right now, there's a
lot of drama around Miller.
The current plan by DC Warner Brothers is to not go forward with Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Yeah.
And to not use him in any future projects. Currently, if, however, it comes down to the pike that they determine that he is innocent, or they are innocent because they're gender fluid. If it's determined that they are innocent, then just like Disney reevaluating Johnny Depp, we might get a reevaluation by DC. It may be too late, because the Flash franchise may have already moved on, but we don't know what's going on. The trouble is,
hopefully the movie at least is out.
Yeah.
The way it's going, that movie gets delayed so much. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to bring some light to that they're more than one side to the story. And,
now, on to happier things. Like I said, a couple of days ago, we got a new teaser trailer for Black Adam that showed Dr. Fate and the Hawkman and some stuff. We hear rumors that we might get a little after credit scene with Superman, but it might be just like the after credit scene in Shazam and stuff, where we never actually see the head.
Face, yeah.
Yeah, or like the end credits scene in Peacemaker. So we don't know who's playing Superman, what version of Superman it is. I mean, we see the hands, so we kind of see he's possibly Caucasian, not the black Superman, but that's something easily retconned because sometimes it's not as visible in the hands anyway. When someone's African American, the palms are still pretty pale, so they could always retcon that a little bit. So we don't know if it's going to be the new African American Superman that they're talking about doing, or if it's Henry Cavill, or what. But that's something they've talked about. We know that Timothy Dalton is playing Dr. Fate in the Black Adam movie. We know we have a Hawkman, and we know we've got a few others of the Justice Society showing up.
The Atom.
Yeah, the Atom. Because you see the Atom in his giant form running across the town in one of the clips. Because the Atom, just like Ant-Man in Marvel, has the ability to get super small and super big.
Yeah.
Because of it's the same basic technology in reverse. And so, in fact, the Atom in DC was able to do it before Ant-Man became Giant Man in Marvel. So, so we've got some interesting scenes coming up with that. And so we're waiting for Black Adam to drop. They've also officially renamed Jessica Jones on Disney Plus to AKA Jessica Jones. But they haven't changed it in any of the listings. All they've done is change the title card. When the episodes start, the title card now reads AKA Jessica Jones, which was the working title when they first pitched the pilot.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought that was the episode of the name of the pilot episode.
That was also the what they called the show originally. Then they changed it to just Jessica Jones, but they've named it back to AKA Jessica Jones and replaced the title card on all the episodes.
Interesting.
And a lot of people believe that they're doing this in order to differentiate it and open it up for Disney to bring back, just like they're doing a new Daredevil series, to do a new Jessica Jones series. And there's also talk about possibly getting us a Luke Cage as well. We may not get an Iron Fist or a Punisher, but they're at least hoping that we get another Jessica Jones and Luke Cage to go along with the new Daredevil. And we might get all 5 series at some point, because Kevin Feige has pretty much stated that he wants to make their stuff semi-canonical and bring them into the fold. And what better way to do that than to make new series that folds their characters in? I mean, we've already got Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin of Crime and Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock in established properties. So, I'm excited for the potential myself. We got so much going on. There's also talk the guy that played Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad is in talks to try to get a Captain Boomerang spinoff series for HBO Max. So we've got more and more stuff opening up in potential through Warner Brothers DC. Do I think they're going to even catch up to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not anytime soon. But they could at least move closer to a big cinematic universe. And one of the things I still say would be one of the best things they could do is making the Snyder Cut canon. And if they were to canonize the Snyder Cut, you would get fans in the movie theaters in droves to see the next movies in that series. Because there are so many people that wrote in and commented and begged them to make the Snyder Cut, which is why we got the Snyder Cut. And, and that's how we control our media. We tell them what we want.
So hey, it's 10:30.
it's probably about time to wrap up.
Yeah, it's time to wrap up. We had, like I said, a media intensive show this week, which will be followed by a much media light episode next week. Really, we're only going to be talking about Miss Marvel and the boys next week.
Yeah.
For TV media. If I manage to see Love and Thunder, we might watch that. We might talk about that.
Is it true that this next episode of The Boys is the season finale? I heard it was.
I believe it is, because I think there's only supposed to be 8 episodes, and this last one was episode 7. Yeah. It's 8 or 9 episodes, which means it's either the finale or the semi-finale.
Yeah.
Or what they like to call the penultimate episode, which is the second to last episode. But it's either the penultimate episode or the finale for the season for the boys. If rumors of an 8 or 9 episode. If we're, on the other hand, we might get 10 or 12 episodes. We're not going to go higher than 12 though. So 12 is probably the absolute limit. And you could probably look it up real quick if you wanted to. But really, the boys and Miss Marvel are really all we got to talk media next week. So next week will be other topic heavy. We'll have a From the Vault. We'll have some more video game topics. Hopefully, now like we said, we are in a little bit of a lull for video game stuff just because we've had so many big reveals of video game stuff in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we might still be in a little bit of a lull, but that's okay. We might talk about board games or competitions or cosplay or things of that nature. So we'll still have some topics for you next week. I go in for surgery on Thursday for my arm to reinflate my fistula for dialysis, but it's only an outpatient surgery, so it should not affect next week's show. But there is always a chance that they admit me for a little while. And if that happens, it might be a delay on next week. But barring that, we should be back next week. Maybe I'll even do some more footage of me playing Fractured online to show off. Because they've added the crystal elementals, and I've been fighting the Jotun, which are Scandinavian frost giants. And they look pretty badass. I wouldn't mind showing off the Jotun storm clerics. That would be a good one to see me fight. And that'll be a lot of fun. We're also getting closer and closer to game. So join Eclectic Endeavors on Facebook if you want to get updated. As always, this last game is the 14th, 15th, and 16th of October over at the Springfield Expo Center. $10 will get you in for the entire weekend. Contact me if you want to do anything with panels, because I'm the panels director and I have, as of yet, no volunteers to run panels. I will, of course, run my DM Roundtable panel I run every year. And if I have another open spot, I might fill it with something else. But Philip will be running the electronic gaming area as well as co-chairing the whole event. So he's a busy man. And then, of course, we've got our usual suspects who come in and help, but we're always open for more volunteers to help out. So Eclectic Endeavors on Facebook is the place to go to volunteer, to keep abreast of things, and to make your opinion known on what you do and don't want to see, or how you'd like to see any excess funds distributed to charity afterwards, because of course, being the last year, anything extra is going to go to charity. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and bid everybody a good night for tonight. Philip's on call tomorrow. We had a show tonight. He's going to try to watch Love and Thunder later in the week. I'm going to try to watch Love and Thunder if I can sometime by the weekend. And of course, like I said, I've got surgery on Thursday. I might do the Festival of Champions D&D on Sunday over at Metagames. If you want to check that out, contact Colby or go to the Springfield Metagames D&D group on Facebook and check that out if you want to get into a competitive team-based D&D type of event, because there's still room for some more teams than that. And you can find out more about that there. We'll bid everybody good night. May your rolls be epic, whether they're fumbles or crits. May your finishing moves be bloody fatalities, and game over. Good night, everybody.
Yo, peace out. Bye.